These words right here, rich, fair, hope, change, great, they are all vague terms. A vague term is a term or a phrase, a word that has little to no definition, or it's a word that includes or doesn't include the extremes of the definitions. There's kind of this general middle of the road idea. So when you're making claims, avoid vague claims. When somebody makes a vague claim, ask for clarity. What does that mean? Let's define that. Let's put it into a phrase or a word in the claim that we can define so we can assess the truth value. So when we're looking at whether that is a claim that is sound, we can say, it's universally known to be true. Ambiguity is different from vagueness, but similar. Vagueness is no specific definition, just kind of general terms. Ambiguity has very specific definitions, but more than one. Ambiguous words or phrases are words or phrases that have more than one specific definition. Haven't you in your life said, so anyway, I've got these real big balls here that, and you realize as you said it that it was kind of awkward to say? We've all said the word balls in our life and gone, what I meant was, you kind of giggle a little bit, and you go, if I say, we shouldn't use glasses, and you go, okay, I know what you mean. And then I come in with plastic cups, and you go, no, I mean glasses. Like, what are you talking about? And I go, I thought you meant drinking glasses. You see the difference? Vagueness, there is no specific definition. The definition is so broad that you can't really define it. There's no agreed upon definition that you can pin down. We just generally know what it means. Whereas ambiguity, there's very specific definitions, but more than one, sometimes 2, 3, or 4. There's different types of ambiguity. There's only one vagueness. Vagueness is vagueness. But ambiguity takes multiple forms. What's called a semantic ambiguity. You can have syntactic ambiguity, pronoun ambiguity, and you can have grouping ambiguity. There are different ways that a word or a phrase can have more than one meaning in a claim. Semantic ambiguity is the type of ambiguity where the word or the phrase has more than one meaning and the sentence structure does not change by the meaning, and the sentence structure itself doesn't create the ambiguity. Let me give you some examples. The one with the glasses was one. That's a semantic ambiguity. What's ambiguous about this? Glasses is ambiguous. Why is it ambiguous? Because it could have more than one meaning. It could be this bispec, or it could be a glass. Either way, it makes sense in the sentence. So ambiguities are words or phrases that have more than one meaning. And the other thing I forgot to say, but that reminds me when I said this out loud, they make sense in the sentence. The sentence still makes sense. Ambiguities have to make sense in the sentence and cause confusion. If I'm talking about these types of glasses, bispecs, what type of a word is it? It's a noun. If I'm talking about this type of glass, what type of word is it? It's a noun. You see how it doesn't change the sentence structure? The sentence structure stays the same. It acts the same way in the sentence. The sentence structure doesn't cause the ambiguity. The word causes the ambiguity. Give you another example. She is cold. What's ambiguous about it? Cold. Cold. Why is cold ambiguous? Because it has more than one meaning. But she could be temperature-wise cold, or she could be putting off. Right? She could also be not very amorous. People say she's cold in that aspect. And how does it act in the sentence? If you're saying she's temperature, she's feeling cold, it's an adjective. Describes her. What if you're saying she's distant to people? She puts people off. She's that sort of thing. What type of word is that? It's an adjective. You have a semantic ambiguity. Semantic ambiguity. What's ambiguous about it? Is it little? I don't know that little's that ambiguous. We're talking about small either way. It's really this word. I mean, you may be able to put both in here together as an ambiguous phrase, little Greek. But it's really Greek that makes it ambiguous. Because of the language, the Greek language, or what else is it?
A person.
A person. A Greek person. I know a little Greek. So if it's the person, what type of word is it? Noun. If it's a language, what type of word is it? You see how the sentence structure doesn't make it ambiguous. It's the word that's ambiguous. It acts the same way in the sentence. It's a semantic ambiguity. Syntactic ambiguity is where the sentence structure changes because of the ambiguity, or the sentence structure causes the ambiguity. I remember this one because back in the old days, when computers were brand new, you'd type on a computer, you'd have a little C prompt, and you'd have to type code. And if you put the wrong code in there, it would bleep, and it would say syntax error. Flying planes can be dangerous. Yeah, so what words are we talking about are ambiguous here? Flying planes. Adjective, it describes the plane. What type of a plane is it? It's a flying plane. It's not a parked plane. It's not a blue plane. It's a flying plane. What's a flying plane? A flying plane is the one that's up in the air. Can they be dangerous? Yeah, sometimes. You look up there and you go, that's getting close. Oh my gosh. And you start running from the flying plane, right?
At that point it's falling.
Flying planes can be dangerous because they fall from the sky, right? So a flying plane can be dangerous. That's true. So how is this a verb? You could be flying the plane. Is it dangerous to fly planes, to actually, the verb of flying a plane? Yeah, it can be dangerous to fly a plane. So either way, does it make sense in the sentence if this is described as the type of plane in the air that's flying? Yes. Does it make sense in the sentence that you are flying the plane or somebody's flying a plane? Yes. And you see how the interpretation changes the sentence structure. Your sentence structure goes from verb noun to adjective noun verb. So the sentence structure changes based on your interpretation, based on the definition or the description of your ambiguity. How about this one? Bear left at the zoo. So you can either veer left, veer right to turn, which is a verb, and in which case, if you're turning left, what would this be? If you're turning, it's a direction. The direction is what? It's a noun. What if it was the rar thing? The animal. It's a noun, and then what is left become? The past tense of leave, so it becomes a verb. And now you have a noun verb or a verb noun. You see how the sentence structure changes based on the interpretation of the ambiguous phrase, bear left. Does it make sense in the sentence either way?
Yeah.
Yes. She is in the bed next to me. It's either she's in the bed next to me or she's in the bed next to me. Next to me can be either applied to the bed or she, right? She could be next to you or the bed could be next to you. So depending on how you interpret this, the structure of this sentence makes it ambiguous. You see how this isn't one like this. This is one where the structure itself, the way it's set up, you have to restructure it so it's clarified. You go, no, what I meant was, in the bed next to me was her, in the, whatever. You know, you restate the sentence so that it makes sense. What if I were to give you this one? The farmer saw the cow with binoculars. Who's got the binoculars? With binoculars could be applied to either the cow or the farmer, right? Either the farmer is seeing the cow with his binoculars, or the farmer sees the cow and the cow's got the binoculars and he's running with the binoculars dangling around his neck. Okay, so you see how the sentence structure can cause ambiguity, or the ambiguity can cause the sentence structure problem. But either way, you have structural problems causing syntactic ambiguity. How about this one? They are hunting dogs. Hunting is ambiguous. It could be either an adjective or a verb. We're either type of dog. It's not a Rottweiler dog. It's a hunting dog. Adjective. Or it could be the act of hunting. Hunting dogs. What else do you notice with this? Is this ambiguous? How is that ambiguous? They are either the hunters are hunting the dogs, or you swap they out with dogs. Those dogs are hunting dogs. So what happens when you have something like this that can be interpreted more than one way? What type of word is this? It's a pronoun. What happens if you have something like this? Bear left at the zoo by the chicks. What's ambiguous about this? Chicks. Are we talking about chirp chirp or ba-ba-boom? Right? Either way, doesn't it make sense in the sentence?
Yeah.
Bear left at the zoo by the chicks, the birds, or bear left at the zoo by the girls. So in that, what type of word is chicks? How does it act? As a noun and a noun, either way. So you have a syntactic ambiguity together with a semantic ambiguity. Anytime you have a semantic and a syntactic together, anytime you have a syntactic, by the way, syntactic is the one that controls, because you still have a structural problem. The semantic, you see how the semantic ambiguity doesn't change your structural problem? You still have your structural problem. So semantic or syntactic ambiguity trumps on those situations. Pronoun ambiguity. Pronoun ambiguity is pretty easy. It's basically what we just saw here. I was wondering why the frisbee was getting bigger, and then it hit me. What's ambiguous about that? It. What hit me? Frisbee or the realization. You see how it makes sense either way in the sentence? And why is it ambiguous? Because a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun. It, by definition, substitutes out what we're supposed to be talking about with the generic term. And so one of the problems when you use pronouns is you might create ambiguity by causing too much of generic by having two nouns ahead of you. You don't know which noun you're talking about. You could say Steve and John were running down the street and he was giggling when he ran by me. Who was giggling? Which one? Grouping ambiguity is pretty straightforward. Well, I shouldn't say it's pretty straightforward because it can be complex. CEOs make more than assistants. How is it ambiguous? If you were to take all the CEOs and add up their money and all the assistants and add up all their money versus the average CEO and the average assistant, guess what happens when you do that? The average CEO makes more than the average assistant. CEOs, on average, make more than the average assistant. But CEOs as a whole make less than assistants when you add up all CEOs and all assistants. Why? There's way more secretaries than there are CEOs. When you add up all the salaries of all the secretaries out there versus all the salaries of all the CEOs, secretaries make a lot more than CEOs. So it depends on how you group your claim. How about if I were to say, some months have 30 days, some months have 31. How many months have 28 days? What's the answer? The answer is everyone's right. Yes, you're right. February. And all of them. It depends on what the question is. That's why it's a trick question. Because both answers are correct. Whichever one you give, it's going to be, you're an idiot, it's the other one. Because they're both right. Who makes more, secretaries or CEOs? Secretaries. No, CEOs, you're an idiot. What? No, they're both right. It depends on how you group it. Do you mean which months only have 28 days? In which case it's February. Which ones have at least 28 days? All of them. The way it's phrased creates a grouping ambiguity. It depends on how you define and group the days. Only or at least. 18 people have slept in this room since the hotel opened. Are we talking 18 all at once? Or 18 individuals, or 2 each, or, right? It depends on how it's grouped. So this is a grouping ambiguity. So what would this be? So that's 18 people since that's a grouping ambiguity. But what about this one? Since it opened. Since it's been open or open? What type of an ambiguity would that be? Either way, it serves the same purpose and the sentence structure doesn't change. So we have a semantic ambiguity, but it's also a grouping ambiguity. So first of all, you say, what's ambiguous? Is it the structure or is it a word or phrase? If it's a word or phrase, then you say, does a word or phrase change based on the interpretation? If it's a structure, I know it's syntactic. If it's a word or phrase, then if it changes, I have syntactic. If it doesn't, I have semantic. If it's ambiguous because of a pronoun, and I can swap out and the pronoun could be used either way,